Everybody sing. We are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Have your way. Oh, we are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Have your way. Yes, everybody sing now. We are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Have your we are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Yes, Lord. So have your way. Yes, Lord. Have your way. Everybody say, come on. Have your way. All we want you to do. We really want you. Like the deer that panted for my water. So let's go see my soul in place. Have your way. 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 Hallelujah. We are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Have your way. Yes, Lord. We are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Have your way. One more time. We are desperate. We are desperate. We are waiting. Waiting for you, Lord. Have your way. We are desperate. We are waiting for you, Lord. Have your way. Have your
Pastor T.C. Boone, all the way from Warner Robins, Georgia, an amazing gift to the body of Christ. It's unfair that that man can sing, preach, and prophesy all in one gift. And he's an amazing gift, and I'm glad to have him with us. He's going to be singing with us all day long. I'm telling you, even if you don't want to hear what I got to say, stay tuned just so you can hear what he got to sing. It's going to bless you. Give God a hand clap of praise for him again. My next guest is a fearless, courageous, magnificent young woman who stands on her truth. She's written a book that I want to offer to you today called Truth Is, Simple Truths of Walking in Your Purpose and Living on Purpose. Sashe Omogiate.
Yes.
I'm almost there. Did I say it right?
You're almost there.
All right. Thank you. What is your truth?
So for my truth, being able to stand tall and accepting all of me.
Yes.
You know, I tell people self-acceptance is just coming to terms with what is at this present moment and what has already been.
Yes.
You know, and understanding that for me, I was able to overcome, denial.
Yes.
And also overcome feeling shameful, as well as blaming myself for past hurt, past experiences that occurred. But I no longer blame myself or feel shameful. I stand in my truth, and I say that it's okay that it happened to me.
There's so many people who are still guilty of judging a book by its cover.
Yes.
Somebody just tuned in to see you well put together and poised and articulate. Said, man, that girl ain't been through nothing. I want you to just give a snapshot, because pain and surviving comes in all different stripes, shapes, and forms. Give just a little bit of your testimony of what you had to endure just to get on this couch.
Yes, wow. So for me, I was diagnosed with major depression, or some people say major depressive disorder, as well as anxiety. And the type of anxiety I have is panic disorder. So when I was diagnosed in 2014, I had to first literally educate myself before I came to that self-acceptance.
Yes.
So when I educated myself on my experience, what I was experiencing basically, my mental condition after I was diagnosed, then I came to a realization that, how can I say, my mental condition doesn't have to have the power over me,
yes.
but I can have the power over what I was battling with.
Yes.
So once I was able to educate myself, be more informed in what I was experiencing, then I got to that place of self-acceptance. And then from self-acceptance, I got to that place of self-discovery. And I discovered so much. I discovered as a child, I literally had panic-like symptoms that I wasn't even know that I had. Coming from an environment raised, I come from a black woman that loved me, that came from a black woman that loved her. But they, how can I say, my grandmother showed tough love, which my mother instilled in me tough love.
Yes.
And sometimes it was belittling me, it was insulting me.
Yes.
But in her mind, it was tough love, she was trying to better me. But as an adult, I internalized the message that I wasn't good enough or that I wasn't worthy.
Yes.
Because as a child, I was belittled and insulted, and I was never acknowledged of the efforts that I put in, but I was always told that I can do better,
Yes.
And a lot of adults, they can literally identify with what I'm saying, because there's adults right now that have that defense mode up.
Yes.
They're isolating themselves, which I did. And when you're isolating yourself and you put this defense mode up, most of the time it's because you came from an environment, a family that was rejective, was dismissive, very critical. And that's why you're so defensive now. You have this mask up, you're isolating yourself. And it took a long time for me to realize that. Even before I was diagnosed, I knew there was something wrong with me, because I had friends and family that used to tell me that I didn't know how to show emotion. And that was one of the reasons, because of past experiences. So for me, I didn't really, even though I could empathize with you in my mind,
right.
I wasn't physically showing it. So you would think that, oh, she don't understand me, she don't get me, she can't relate to me, she don't feel my pain. But I can feel your pain. I just had an issue with showing it, with expressing that feeling, that empathy.
How do you decipher between I've had a bad day, I'm going through a slump, or it's depression?
Yes.
Does depression have a time limit?
So now this is the thing. People need to understand, we all have mental health. But
Yes.
one thing about it is, the difference between me and you, I'm just putting out there, you can probably take care of your mental health better than I can. That's the difference. Someone can take it better than you. Because all mental health is our emotional,
Yes.
it's our psychological, and it's our social well-being.
Yes.
That's all it is. And we all have mental health. You just need to take care of it. If you're not taking care of your mental health, guess what? You will end up with a mental condition.
Wow.
And for me, for so many years, I had so much pain inside from my childhood, teenage years,
Yes.
that it festered into depression. And all depression is just it's disrupting a person's normal functioning. So I was unable to function normally. Certain things that I was used to doing, I was unable to do it because it was disrupting my thinking. It was disrupting my feelings and my actions, my judgment towards things. So if you take care...
What do you do now if you feel an alert or a tinkling, Sashe, we got to pull this together, that I'm feeling a relapse going to happen? What are the things that you do to talk yourself back into a place of wholeness because you have this self-awareness?
That's my coping mechanism. So we all have different coping strategies. So for me, I like, it may sound funny, but folding clothes, like doing laundry. And the reason...
got work for you.
No,
I'm going to help you. I'm going to be your therapist and charge you.
But really, it's a great coping mechanism, and
Yes.
the reason being is the fact that it's taking your mind off of that stressor, that trigger,
Yes.
and you're focusing on folding the clothes.
Yes.
It's like a distraction kind of, because you're taking your mental state, on folding clothes. It's no different from cooking. When people say they love cooking, it's therapeutic, and you know why? Because it's taking your focus away from that.
Right. So it's a necessary distraction.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the push to go from folding clothes to seeking help?
Yes. So for me, again, it was from
Yes.
getting to that place of self-acceptance.
Yes.
So I went to group support. I went to therapy. That was after I realized that I can have control over this.
Yes.
You know, I can take that power away.
Yes.
You know.
With that self-awareness,
Yes.
how does it help you in recalibrating your interpersonal relationships? Because you're very open, very forward about where it is that you are.
Yes.
And the mass majority of people are very sheltered about their own self-awareness.
Yes.
And would feel uncomfortable talking about somebody else's if it's not in a gossip zone.
Yes. Well, for me,
yes,
through the self-discovery, through education, I learned so much. I tell people it's so pivotal for us to really learn the human brain and how the mind works. You know, you know how the brain works? The brain learns through patterns of response. So that's repeated experiences. So once you understand, you'll realize that we automatically respond to certain things, or how can I say react.
Yes.
So one thing for me, as I start educating myself, I realized that I react to challenges and situations. We all go through life challenges because it's inevitable.
Right.
You know, we're going to go through it regardless. But you have to be able to respond to it in a healthy manner. Respond to it instead of reacting on impulse.
Yes.
Is basically, you know, making a conscious and intentional decision. You know, and also one of the coping mechanisms that I learned was through mindfulness. You know, all mindfulness is being, you know, attuned to your feelings so you can make conscious decisions to change. So you're being in the present moment.
Right.
You know. So I tell people, once you have that awareness, you know, not even self-acceptance, but you have that awareness, because you can't change anything that you're not aware of.
That's right.
So when I had that awareness that something was kind of out of whack, so before I even went to the doctor and got diagnosed, I had awareness that something wasn't right. Because for one, I was dealing with a guy, and he was telling me, you know, you've been acting funny lately, you know, your eating habits are unusual. He thought I was pregnant. And I told him, I said, I'm not pregnant, but let me go and take a test. So I went, I took a test, it came back negative. And then I start, basically, you know how when you want a result, so
yes,
you kind of force yourself on something.
Yes.
So for me, I forced it on the pregnancy test. I made my mind believe that it was the fact that the pregnancy test was only $7. I went back to the pharmacy, I spent $20. And it came back negative again. But I wanted to convince myself that it had to be that test. It was nothing else. Because I couldn't put the word to it. I didn't know the word to it. I didn't grow up in an environment that discussed depression, that discussed anxiety. So I was kind of, you know, I was ignorant to the fact. I didn't know nothing about it. But once I got to a state of awareness and I said, you know what, something is out of whack. Something is not right. Because I'm isolating from myself from a man that I actually care about. I like. You know, I was having these unusual eating habits. I was having insomnia. I'm like, okay, it has to be a word to it. I may not know the word to it, but it has to be something to it. So let me go find help and seek help. And that's what I did.
Tell me how you got from that point to penning Truth Is.
Ooh, okay, so Truth Is a self-help book. So I actually wrote it as a journal. And for me, journaling is very therapeutic.
Yes.
You know, so I just journaled. And then finally, one of my mentors told me, well, not told me, but she convinced me to make it into a book. And that's what I did, make it into a self-help book.
What has been the recurring response that you've gotten from people who have gone through it?
They love it.
Yeah.
They love it. They tell me every time they read it, they tell me it's needed in the community. You know, and more people need to read it. You know?
I was amazed. We did here at our church an altar call for those who were under psychological stress and overwhelmed emotionally, and the altar was flooded over. And so many times we tried to sweep mental health under the rug until now there's a lump in the carpet.
Yes.
That there's no way to really tap dance around it. How can people get this book, Truth Is?
So they can go to my website, which is iamsashe.com.
Sashe.
Yes.
I got it. I put an A at the end. Sashe, not Sasha.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. You got to come back again and again.
Yes.
And thank you for equipping and empowering young women all over the country. I'm cheering for you from the stands. And I want to see God get the ultimate victory out of your life. Would you give God some praise for Sister Sashe? Absolutely. My brother's coming back again.